Alright guys, such Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying all day. So far, an absolute banger day of CDL matches from start to finish. Drama everywhere you look. Falcons played their first game as a new team, and that was certainly rather interesting. And then OpTic versus Kenny, game 5, round 11. Banger, always destined to be a great series. That's exactly what was delivered. High quality, not necessarily at times, but OpTic get the victory regardless. A big, important series in the context of the season, I would say, of these two respective teams. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We'll get to this as well towards the end of the video. First of all, just wanted to say, hoping Clay is doing well, because this is a real concern. He put this out there today that he wasn't able to watch the match with Vancouver because he was in the emergency room with what they thought were potential stroke symptoms. Now, thankfully, they've done all the tests and there's, nothing that's come up that looks untoward. And as he says, started experiencing numbness in the left side of my body, woke up, a bunch in the middle of the night, and it was in a really bad way. So, yeah, wishing Clay the best. A really difficult time, I'm sure, for him. Look, man, Clay's had a life, right? Like, there's lots of things that have gone on in Clay's life and career. So, certainly wishing the best for him and hope all's well, because he says, yeah, right now everything seems to be okay, but obviously concerning for sure, right? So, yeah, wishing Clay the best. I'm sure that the entire community does. We will, though, get into the series they played, because while he was there at the hospital, his team was stinking up the gaff, and we've got to get into that. Now, Surge are one of the best teams in the game. Second the most recent major. Whether you consider them to be second or third, depending on where you think Thieves are, that is a question. And here are the Falcons boys showing up for their game, and they look absolutely delighted to be playing Call of Duty for the Vegas Falcons. I mean, let me just get a quick little zoom in on this. Pred could not look happier if he tried. I mean, look, I'm not saying that Pred isn't actually happy to be playing for the Falcons, because I think in many respects that he is. But obviously on stream the other day, Pred was saying, oh yeah, it's a dream. Everything's really happy to be on this organization. He could have looked a bit happier, right? Obviously, Exnid's buzzing to be playing with teammates with all of these guys are world champions. Obviously, Nastie's on the right-hand side. They didn't get him a hoodie in time or whatever to take this shot. Then the series gets underway. It's still kind of remarkable, right, to see Pred in green, but not in OpTic green. It's strange to think how quickly those circumstances have changed. And game 1 was a banger in the favour of Surge. And frankly, this series was not close at all. The reality is, the series that Falcons played when they had their Saudi team against Surge earlier in the year was actually more competitive than this. Now, I will say that was pre-Neptune for Surge. That was in the Hixie days. So, maybe take it with a bit of a grain of salt. But still, I think there was some hoping that Falcons today would at least put up some sort of a fight. To be honest, were Falcons better than I expected? No, I think they were marginally worse than I expected, but they were pretty similar to what I expected, right? Like, I don't think many of us had much faith in this team. I think the crazy thing to me is the fact that it seems pretty similar to where they were before when it was Exnid and friends, and it's, I don't know, kind of the same story again. Crazy that they've changed their roster, but they've still now lost 28 hard points in a row, and they're now 0-28 at our point this year, which is outrageously bad. Surely they're going to get a win regardless. Pred, look, he was down 0-2. The Search and Destroy, they played the new map as well on Dealership. I actually thought it was all right, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think Dealership's too bad. They put it in the map pool. It's pretty fast-paced, but it gives the attackers some options in terms of what they want to do. And Surge just smoked them really on this map. Falcons didn't put up much of a fight. Maybe somewhat expected, but at least I thought that maybe in Search and Destroy they could do something. Like, surely there was a possibility there. Pred obviously checked over at his bank account on the right-hand side screen and was like, I might be down 0-2, but it's still all looking good in the hood for me. And obviously that's going to be a big talking point with Falcons if they continue to struggle. And Surge are very good. They deserve their credit. But yeah, Falcons were looking horrific this series. Pred, there was a couple of moments this map again where I don't really think he knew what was going on the map. That's going to be something they're going to have to drill in. Exnid was genuinely the star player of the team, and we saw it on this map especially. Pred did have a decent map on the Vault control in the end, and both Priester and Arcetes were practically double negative, which is the big concern about bringing in these two guys as the two ARs. Was it predictable that bringing in Priester and Arcetes as your new AR duo was going to result in some maps where the team is getting slammed? Absolutely it was predictable. I'm not saying they should have kept, Dahoom and a Wix pixel, but I am saying that this maybe wasn't the best decision, and I thought that at the time, and my mind is not exactly changed on it now. So, I mean, O4 in the interview was asked by Puckett, was that a challenge at all? And he said no. He didn't even break a smile or a smirk. He just said no. It was not a challenge. Felt like it was just routine for Surge. And it's Falcons' first series. I want to give them a little bit of time. We'll see how they develop from here. But as a first showing, I think there's a general feeling really with teams that relatively quickly after they formed, you get a feeling for how good the team could be. Maybe give it a week or two, we'll start to see a bit more evidence of that. But the first series, it wasn't really a pretty sight, and the numbers weren't pretty either. Arstes ends the series with a 0.57, Exnib was the closest one to even, Prids at a 0.8, Priest is at a 0.6. I mean, like, look, they've played Surge, a great team, but they're not playing the OpTic dynasty, right? Like, and look, fair enough. Surge are real good, and they deserve their credit. But when Nastie's got a 1.5, O4's got a 1.4, Neptune's got a 1.3, and your AR duo is combining for -48 and a 0.6, it's not really a great sign, regardless of the way that you spin it. But the series that we'd all been waiting for, Kenny versus OpTic, the new Minnesota Rocket team, how would they look up against the Green Wall? And this was a crazy series. It was phenomenal to watch. I had no idea who was going to win, basically the whole time. It flip-flopped on its head a million times, and it was an absolute banger. Was it the highest quality Call of Duty you're ever going to watch? Absolutely not. It was a bit scruffy, to say the very least, but OpTic, they get the job done when it matters, and this could be very crucial. Game 1, the first thing to know is that Kenny started off cooking, right? He started off 8-5, and the OpTic fans are sitting there thinking, oh my god, where was this guy when we wanted him? And Kenny's POV looked better today, like he was shooting straighter, seemed more energized, he dropped like a 0.96 at the end of the series, so, you know, good series from Ken. Look, his Search and Destroy, still a bit of a question mark to me, right? Like, you know, it was a product for OpTic. It continues to be true here. But Kenny seems like a more inspired player now, wanting to play with these new guys, and I think it's going to be good for all parties, really. But the game 1, Rocker will definitely feel like they should have won. Both hardpoints were the same, in the sense that Rocker, they had everything to lose, and they lost. I mean, now, to be fair, some of the spawns on this final hill, the P4, were a little bit questionable, but Rocker had a big lead. OpTic just held them down. Rocker staggered this so bad. I'm sure that Kenny would be fuming watching it back in the VOD, and Kenny was also guilty of it, to be fair, as well, but often it's a communication thing. They would go one by one, not trade anything, and then do it again for another spawn wave, and then do it again for another spawn wave, and it's like, oh my god, you've just gifted the map to OpTic. That's what they did game 1. They did bounce back in the game 2, got kind of controversial here. Nero clutched a nice little 1 versus 2, so it was Skyz and Huke in a 1v2. Nero gets the first kill, and then finds himself in a 1v1, snaps onto the second guy. That was pretty disgusting. And speaking of disgusting, have a look at this. This is Dashy killing Geo, and he can't even see the guy. Now, technically, this wasn't a snake, because Dashy goes from prone to crouch and then stands up, but it looked pretty outrageous at the other perspective, and technically that's allowed. So, you know, you've got to watch out for spots like this on the rewind. Cool to see rewind back in, enjoyed watching that. Rocker get the win. This, though, might be the map that OpTic will come away from and think, damn, this isn't great, because Protocol Control has been a better map for OpTic in scrims lately, but against Rocker, this honestly wasn't even close. Like, Rocker just slammed them on the control. Look, Nero had a great series today. Geo had a phenomenal series today. Kenny was on crack this control. He had a really good map, and Estriel wasn't maybe as good as he would have hoped that he would have been this series, to be honest. Certainly on the final map, I think he would have hoped to have a bit more impact, but he still had a solid game here on the control. But it was Kenny leading the charge against his former team, 26-15. Kenny's back. Kenny was all smiles in the camera as well. It looked like, okay, oh my god, Rocker are actually about to do this, right? Then we get to the map 4 hardpoints, and Nero, he's on a 5 spree. Shotzzy's double negative, right? Like, the protocol looks like it's going to get out of hand. All of a sudden, though, OpTic start to bring a comeback. So this game was a pretty big advantage in favour of Rocker. They're up like 60, 70 points. But OpTic won a crucial rotation, they locked a lot of the time down, and on the final couple of hills, Rocker just did nothing at all. Like, I mean, this was the overall scoreboard. They got to 196 to 137 and then just got slammed. Now, this was OpTic playing it really well. I was impressed by OpTic the second half of this game, but, I mean, again, Rocker just full collapsed on their second half point in a row. And it's early days for this new team with Kenny, but certainly in terms of decision making and when it comes down to crunch time, there's clearly a lot for these guys still to learn. But I think they were pretty impressive today. I think, you know, let's say Kenny was not there and PaulX was, I think OpTic would have won the series more comfortably than they did. So I think Rocket can be reasonably happy with their day's work, but they'll still be very gutted about the outcome in the end because, you know, both hardpoints they could have won. I think OpTic certainly deserved this one and the first one. Of course, you deserve the maps that you win, but you know what I'm saying, right? Could have gone a different way, and when you're up 60 to then lose like that, big comeback from OpTic at a crucial moment, to be fair. And then we have the search and destroy, which was the same kind of story, really. Shotzzy gets one in the site. I mean, Shotzzy had a masterclass final map here, really. Kenny had a better one, and it's Dashy versus Nero 1v1. Nero gets the bomb down, but Dashy knows that he's got him trapped in here, right, as soon as the bomb goes down. And, you know, I think Nero just played it a bit scared. I mean, 2 rounds in a row, they end up in this position on the A bomb site, and Dashy's got an AR, Nero's got a sub, and he guns him, right? And, okay, I understand Nero's play, but you've got to consider, I think, the possibility that Dashy is making the play that he is. And by giving that up, he, you know, gives up the rounds, goes to a round 11. Then in the round 11, I mean, look, who do you blame for this, Estial or Kenny? Was Kenny too close to the RC? Do they need to use the RC? I mean, you probably use it, right? But just, yeah, a disaster class, somehow blowing up your own teammate in a 4 versus 3. Then they try and retake the A bomb site. They get a decent way towards doing it. And then Skyz somehow pops 3 with a pistol. We didn't really get to see it here, but this is how the round concludes. So game 5, round 11. Skyz gets 1, Skyz gets 2 while they're 1 shot. Skyz gets 3 while they're 1 shot. And OpTic Texas, they take the game. They iced up when it mattered. I mean, Rocker, to be honest, full collapsed when it mattered on their side, and there's a lot for them to think about. But fundamentally, they're a very talented team. OpTic will know that they need to play significantly better than this if they want to start, you know, trying to win events and stuff like that. But it was a great series to watch, and probably a kind of expected series in some respects. 2 new teams, new players in, playing search and destroy in this kind of level again as a team for the first time. It's going to be a bit of a mess, and a bit of a mess it most certainly was. As Kenny says, 12 the hard points, tough loss, you know, just had to close out. What I will say about this Rocket team real quick is that they're currently not qualifying for the World Championship. Every 10 points they accrue is big. There is a world in which they finish this season 10 points off qualifying for champs. That is a possibility, and they may look back on today. If they play like they did today for the rest of the season, I think they'll make it because they'll beat enough teams, and to be fair, they'll probably get better than today, you would imagine. But if they struggle and they have a difficult couple of draws, let's say at the majors, and these things don't go in their favour, there is a world in which today's troll, if you want to look at it from Kenny's perspective, is critical for the rest of their year. But just one thing to keep in mind, as Dashy says, it was destiny for it to play out like that, but of course the big 1v1 from Dashy was a key turning point, and Shotzzy says he's not going to talk too much trash anymore after what has happened as of late. But Rocket, they go down. I mean, it was a close series. Geo, what a player. I mean, watching Geo's POV is great fun. On land, he's been doing bits, but online this series, he had 109 for a 1.3 KD. Most damage in the lobby by far. The guy was cooking. Estriel didn't have his greatest series. Kenny and Nero both with a 0.96 with very similar overalls. And on the other side, it's pretty much a banger, right? Skyz, you know, not a great, not exactly debut anymore, right? Because he's been on OpTic for a little while now. But Huke and Shotzzy were back in there playing off each other well. They know how it goes, and especially in the search and destroy when it mattered, they were in position to get the job done. And the final series of the day, then, here we go. Toronto versus FaZe. This could also have been a banger of the day. I thought this series was near enough 50-50, because recently, hardpoints, FaZe in their scrims, they've looked a little bit slower than otherwise. Toronto looked really good in their hardpoints in scrims. Sure, FaZe in a Game 5 series, you always feel like they're going to be slight favourites, especially because they won the most recent event, but if there was ever an online stint, they may go 3-2. This seems like a good candidate. So, Toronto today played some Mega Call of Duty. As I say, I won't be able to fully do it justice here because it got real late, real quick in Europe because the delays went on forever. But game 1, I mean, immediately Toronto came out the gates fast. FaZe bought a bit of a comeback, but Beans brought in the streak, and it was all over. Look, we've talked about it before. Toronto are unreal in scrims. They've looked so good online. They finally, at times anyway, they finally converted that at the most recent major. Eventually fell short to Surge, but they 3-0'd. Thieves on their way to that losers final. And FaZe, despite having won the event, we've seen some of their, what they've done online at times in the past. We've seen what's happened, for example, when they played OpTic the other day in scrims. They lost 7-1 map counts. Many of those were hardpoints. So definitely was my feeling that Toronto could get the job done in the respawns today. That's what they did. And then during the search and destroy, we had a mega delay. And look, this wasn't really on their end. I know there was people saying, oh, well, here we go again. FaZe are pulling the plug when things aren't going so well. I'm not really sure there's any evidence to support that, but we got a couple of rounds of the search in. One of them was actually this round where JoeDeceives gets 1, 2, and 3. I mean, this guy is on fire right now. Like, honestly, JoeDeceives, if Toronto go on to cause some serious damage, I mean, look, FaZe won the first 2 events of the season. Will they win the next 4? Major 3, Major 4, Champs and World Cup? Extremely unlikely. Thieves will surely get on the board at some point, that's my feeling. Who else will, if anyone? Could it be Toronto? Of the other teams right now, they seem a good candidate, right? Surge are looking good as well. OpTic clearly have a couple of steps they need to take forward, I would say. And Toronto seem to be playing some great... I mean, they are playing great stuff, but they also seem to be really loving each other's company and enjoying playing together. Bean says it's an absolute movie because as soon as that round ended, the game crashed. Eventually, they got back in. FaZe bought the comeback. I mean, it was an absolute classic that FaZe managed to, ice themselves or, like, ice Toronto, whatever people say. aBeZy had an insane ace here as well. Like this, I mean, insane shots. He also, I think, got the blood on the round 11 as well, which was critical. So just the type of things that aBeZy does sometimes. But the game 4 was a pretty similar story, right? This, to me, was the most important map of the series. Obviously, taking it to game 5, but just in terms of what it meant. The fact that FaZe weren't really that close to winning this map here. Beans was double positive. Like, Look, I rate Beans. I think he's an incredible talent. This was the season I was hoping for him to take a step up, and he was pretty good so far this year, but certainly this series, he was different gravy. They take it to a game 5, and they win the game 5 protocol in the end reasonably comfortably. So the numbers don't really paint the picture of the entire series, but a banger from start to finish. Hopefully we get more to come between these two teams for the rest of the season, but a crucial series in many respects, and some bangers of the day, it's got to be said. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. We'll probably talk more about this series in the coming days too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.